Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Pear Tree Sessions. Here under the pear tree in my backyard. The pear tree is very weighed down with pears right now. Started harvesting. Today, a little bit of a different topic. I want to talk about bears and living with bears. I live with bears. Our neighborhood quite often has bears roaming through it. Bears have walked along this path right in front of me on more than one occasion, and I see bears very often when I'm out hiking in the parks. We have grown accustomed to seeing a lot of black bears in our neighborhood and in the surrounding communities. And I recently had a bit of an epiphany in that regard. I used to think, as a lot of people thought, that bears always lived here, and as our communities have sprawled in suburban sprawl and we've gone up further and further into the surrounding hills, that we've encroached on their territory and they're just basically trying to exist. And I think there is definitely some truth to that. However, recently, or maybe a year or so ago, I was at a meeting, and a person who had lived in the community for his whole life, and he was well into his 80s, mentioned that back in the 50s and 60s, driving around, they would rarely see a bear. And if they saw a bear, it was usually just one bear by itself, or maybe a mama, a sow with one cub, sometimes two, but mostly usually one. And now we see bears very, very frequently driving around, walking through the, being captured on cameras around people's houses. And the sows that we're seeing have quite often two cubs, fairly often three cubs, and I've even heard a story about one sow with four cubs. So the epiphany is that maybe the population is actually growing not in spite of us, but because of us. That we are providing food sources, whether it be, stuff on our trees like this pear tree right here, garbage, unfortunately, or the agricultural areas that are around that produce blueberries and cranberries and various other fruits. So it was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, and I think it's something to think about. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Take your time, no worries.